Ladies and gentlemen, we have Dolapo Ayo-Ojo. I'm glad to have Dolapo here today because if you
You.
have seen my interviews with people, you would see that a lot of them are men. And we're very glad today to have a lady in supply chain management actually
Yes.
on
Thank
our
you.
interview with the SupplyJobs Canada uh, um, members and also at large the supply chain professionals in our community. Adedolapo Ayo-Ojo is a seasoned international supply chain management professional with over 14 years extensive work experience spanning across Nigeria, Ghana, Dubai, and most recently Canada, of course. She started her career in Nigeria, Nestle Nigeria PLC, and later went on a 1 year official assignment in the regional headquarters in Ghana, where she led and implemented innovative projects. Upon completion of her assignment, she was seconded to Nestle Nigeria, where she was responsible for the raw and packaging material planning and ensured there was no out of stock leading to factory shutdown. I'm sure you know that's very critical. Due
Yeah.
to our exceptional performance, she was again recommended for another international assignment in the Nestle Middle East region this time. I mean, that's huge, and was located in Dubai. During these 3 years of expatriation, she successfully deployed the revised monthly business planning cycle process that led to an improvement in the demand planning accuracy from a monthly average of 79% in 2012 to 88% in 2015. It's another major one there, achievement there. She returned to Nestle Nigeria as the demand and supply planning manager, where she recorded notable achievements such as reducing the cost of bag goods for finished products by 4 to 5% and raw and packaging material write-off cost by 60%. Our exceptional leadership and problem-solving skills were recognized by the management and was appointed as a factory supply chain manager for the biggest factory in Nestle's Central West Africa region, and that's in Nigeria, where she led and coached our teams to implement cost-saving initiatives and achieve the company's objectives, a position she held till our transition to Canada. She is currently a procurement business partner with the government of Manitoba, and that's uh, Adedolapo Ayo-Ojo. Welcome again to the Supply Jobs
You.
Canada supply chain career journey of professionals in our community. We are trying to gain insights from the professionals in our group to see how they've been able to transition uh, being a professional wherever they are coming from in their home country and then coming to Canada and then to have that opportunity to be able to then break into your profession here. I mean, there's a lot of activities that would have happened during that period, and we really like to learn from that. So welcome again. Okay, to the first question. I'm sure there are a lot of people who will be interested in your personality beyond just, the official the bio that we just read now. So this is a question where we'd like you to go into, your personality, if you may. Can you tell us about yourself?
Okay, so first, thank you for having me on the platform. It's really, really good to see, as professionals that we're trying to support one another and to grow together. So yes, following what you've already read about me. So I'm a supply chain management professional. I currently hold designation with EPICS for the CSCP. And yet my career has been the last 14 years. I really, really love what I do. I'm very analytical. So really being in this space for me, it's really bringing out the best in me. Um, in my pastime, apart from work, I really love to work with children. And I also mentor some youths. So for me, that's really what helps me to, debunk from the whole stress and pressure of the work. So I just kind of find something else to do outside work. So that really helps me to flourish and, just regain my energy and refuel. So in my pastime, I have some youth I mentor, and then with children. So I teach in the children's church as well. I'm happily married. I'm married to Ayo-Ojo, and we're blessed with 3 children. So I have a daughter, she's 10, and then I have 2 boys. My first son is 8, and the little one is 3. So for now, I'm still trying to. They are another set of work for me as well.
Yeah, yeah, I can relate because I also have 3 kids here. The oldest one being 7 going to 8 years old.
Okay.
So yeah, I mean, I can imagine, especially when you just serve them some desserts and they're just all over the
Yes.
place. I mean,
Extra energy.
it's just part of the one of those things you have to juggle with your career and then family
Sure.
life and
Sure.
all of that. So
Sure.
it's
Sure.
that's pretty interesting. The other thing that I imagine, or that a lot of people who are not of your original culture
Yeah.
would like to learn. There anything, from the Nigerian culture, being a Nigerian or
Yeah.
African culture that you missed most, haven't been in Canada for some years?
Okay, I think the first thing I would mention is family. So, of course, right now I'm away from my siblings, from my parents, because back home we have the culture of you have everyone around you. So my kids could go stay with their uncles, stay with their aunts, Usually now when approaching the summer, so my kids would have been looking forward to going to spend like some three
Ah,
weeks with their grandparents. So it's
okay.
usually a fun time for them. So you can imagine having about 11 children in the same house with their grandparents. Also Lagos, I miss the hustle and bustling. Sometimes I just look, I'm like, it's too quiet. There's no
Maybe
bus.
maybe you need to be in Toronto then.
The car is still sane. You don't have scratches on the car.
Yeah.
So it's just the jolly good, culture and life of back home. Yeah, I do miss that.
Yeah, I can relate when you mention about, going to the grandparents
Yes.
during the holidays. I mean, that I used to do that too when I was young. And when
Yes.
you really compare with the culture here, I think one thing that people who are still kind of back home trying to immigrate to Canada can learn from that is, having these kids being your kind of the 100% responsibility,
Yeah.
for you, and then also having to juggle that with your career. Yeah, it could really be a lot of I would call it a challenge because I went through that as well. Even
Yeah.
adjusting to that, to
Mm-hmm.
realize that, look,
Yeah.
the fact that you have a full-time job doesn't mean that you wouldn't figure out how to take care of your kids if you start to
Yes.
go to work.
Yes.
So
Mm-hmm.
it's one huge thing I've also observed here in Canada, and I think that's one thing that a lot of people would basically have to deal with and plan for
Yes.
that. So
Yeah.
here is another question here, which I think people who are trying to go into the supply chain career might want to know about. So how did you break into the supply chain management profession? What do you love about it? Kind of each person's experience is kind of different.
Yeah.
What are those things? I won't say hate. I would say what are those things that you probably, you're not having fun with, but you still have to do it as part of a job, right? So
Okay.
two questions there.
Uh,
How did you break in, and then what do you love and what do you don't love about it?
okay. So my journey is quite interesting because I read accounting in school, and after school I tried to get a job. So actually I was applying for accounting roles, and then I was invited for an interview with Nestle for for accounting training at that time. So I went through the process, and then at the last stage, there were 4 of us. I was
Hmm.
the fourth on the list. However, they needed just 3 people, so that's how I didn't get the role. But they still had me in the profile in their system. So
Ah.
when the position for supply chain management training got opened, I was invited or I was called to check if I was interested in it. So the first thing that went through my mind was supply chain management training. That's not common. That's 14 years back. That wasn't
Yeah.
something everybody was looking for. So I just tried to do like a research and just check online. What can I read about it? Because I only had they called me. in the afternoon, and I was to go for the interview the next day. So I just had a few hours to try and read up on it. Now,
Mm,
fortunately, when I tried to check, I found out, okay, there's something about demand and supply, which of course I did with economics. So
mm.
I knew I would be able to say something about it. And interestingly, for my projects in school, I wrote on inventory management in construction firms. So that also came in handy for me.
Right.
So when I went in for the interview and all, I eventually got the role. And we're the first set of supply chain management trainees to come into Nestle at that time. So it was really a new program. And it was really quite interesting because we had the opportunity to go through the different aspects of supply chain. So when you first come in, you have a few months that you're just like going through everything to have a full grasp of what supply chain really means. So at that point in time, within the first year that I joined Nestle, I knew I was going to keep my, building my career in supply chain management. I fell in love with it. It wasn't easy, really, because I was working in Otta.
Oh,
And for those that know Nigeria or Lagos, I was working in Otta and I was living in Berga. So you can imagine how many hours I had to commute, to get to work and back. However, I just fell in love with it and all that. So that really was how I found myself in supply chain,
oh,
industry and space.
nice, nice.
Yeah.
Um, well, I think you told us you liked analytics, which
Yes.
is the
Yes.
aspects of it. But are there any specific things that you can remember about, you know, like the career when it started? There probably some things
Oh, okay.
like, am I ready?
Um, Yeah, so let me share, I could share this. So when I joined Nestle, I was the youngest person in the organization. So I had people that were like my father's age mates and all that. So a bit of, would I say intimidation, or am I sure I can navigate here? So I had instances where I had to join meetings, with the senior management and all that. So it really made me to, I could be an introvert actually, so I like to keep to myself. But that really made me to start to come out of my shell and find ways to build rapport, to be able to engage with people, to be able to stand in front of, the audience and be able to present and still pass on the message. So fortunately for me, I had bosses. All through my career, I think I've had very, very good bosses that have
Oh,
helped me, really, really helped me to develop. So
great,
I had someone in particular then, a senior manager then, who I went to meet her and I told her I needed help. I was plain, I was open about it, and I asked her that I needed her to help me through the chain. So she told me then that every time I come into the meeting for the presentation, she will be my cue. So when I'm speaking well, she will give me a sign. When I need to buckle up or change the flow, she will give me a sign. And after every meeting, I always went back for a feedback.
great,
So I
great.
think that's really what is
Like
very
a
important
mentor,
to be able
right?
to know. Yes, yes, yes. So that really helped me, and made me feel more comfortable really to work in the space.
Yeah, great. I mean, that's really interesting. You mentioned something there about being an introvert, which for me
Yeah.
too, I boldly say it every time that I'm in an introvert. The thing
Yes.
that being an introvert has its own strength,
Sure,
of
sure,
course, when
sure.
it comes to the social thing, it kind of wears us out,
Mm-hmm.
so that's the downsides of it. But nonetheless,
Yeah,
we do have our own strength. And one thing I realized is that when I had the opportunity to actually either practice engineering or go for
yeah.
supply chain management, I
Mm-hmm.
realized that if I go on to practice engineering,
Yeah.
I will never change from being an introvert, because supply chain offered you, just like the way you mentioned it now, opportunity
Yes.
to relate with people, to build your
Mm-hmm.
social skills. And I think that's one great thing about supply chain management career, just to kind of add to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, so you mentioned something there that I found interesting about, like working in an environment where you have the old boys club, and you're not kind
Yes.
of sure what is the right thing to say or what is not the right
Yes.
thing to say. And I'm sure a majority of those who are working in that environment are also men, right?
Yeah.
So
Yes. Yes. Yes.
which makes me want to ask the next question about, when you work in those type of male-dominated environment, how have you been able to navigate that to be able to successfully,
Mm.
thrive?
Yeah. So I would say first is Um, and I always share with other females as well that don't think you're going to get a seat on the table because you're a female. It's really about what you're bringing onto the table. So that for me is the first step. So I'm not sitting there because I'm a female. I'm sitting there because I deserve it, because I have something to add, to bring on, and I have value to add. So that for me, I think is the first step of confidence through which I go in. But of course, you won't still deny the fact that, of course, if you're in a meeting. So for instance, when I was the demand and supply planning manager, all the people in the senior management for supply chain then were all male. So I was the only female. But then the flip side is I was the special one. So everyone, even when there's like the room is getting loud and all that, I was always the one to say, okay, let's calm down, let's take it back, and all that. So for me, I think women really bring the other part of it. We are very multitasking. So really some things that will take the men a few more times, I'm there, bringing the extra on the table, thinking. Like I said, I'm very analytical and I really think a lot, think deep, problem solve. So for me, it was really what extra am I bringing? Of course, sometimes we need to do the extra. So what the men will do, maybe like this, I need to do the extra because I need to be seen, not being rude or not being in people's faces, but really consistently, my work has to speak for me, and that's been the journey for me.
Oh, great, great. Yeah, that's a very good one here because what I hear from what you have said right now is it's not being intimidated, but rather be confident.
Yeah.
And this confidence needs to come from this place where you have something to offer. You have a value to add to that team, and that definitely will be something that kind of sets you apart from the other folks, which basically is also an environment where it makes you to become more visible because you actually have something to offer in terms of value to the team, which I do definitely agree with because in the end it is not about if it's female or a male. It's about, okay, are you adding value to the team in the
Yeah.
end? So
Table.
that's a great one. Thanks for sharing. And I will move on to the next one. I think you you actually spoke something a little bit about this one, but maybe if you still kind of have more um, to add to it, how do you make yourself happy in your current role in the industry? That is a current role that you have now, which I believe is in the Canadian industry.
Yeah. Okay, so well, I've been in Canada for almost 9 months now, so I'm still fresh. But I would say in the last about 5 months plus, okay, so when I initially arrived in Canada, I took on a non-paid job for 2 months. That was last year with the Manitoba Liquors and Lotteries.
Oh.
For me, that was just at least to get into the space and start understanding what it's really like working in the Canadian environment, So that kind of helped me before going into my current role. And my current role at the moment, we are going through like a transformation
Mm.
where they're trying to centralize a bit of the procurement processes and all that. So it's a lot of, we're still refining, you need to contribute, you need to, bring from your past expertise, your experiences as well onto the table so that whatever we're solidifying now is really something that can thrive and, those coming behind us will be able to run with it. So thriving in this environment or making myself happy is, of course, if I were to look back and say, okay, where I'm coming from, yeah, I'm not yet on that management level I want to be in. But the good thing is, like I said, for me at every point in time is really, am I adding value? Am I bringing something to the table? So it's really just using my transferable skills of things I've done before,
Mhm.
leverage on it to see how do we make it better. I think for you to be happy whatever you're doing, it starts with you, it starts with your mind. So it's really telling myself, of course, I'm on a journey. I knew I was coming to Canada, and of course everything is about phases and times and seasons. So right now I'm just enjoying the moment. I still have I was telling my husband recently that I'm on a break. I'm not thinking You can imagine then back home, I
Yeah.
remember there was a time where we were very short, critical on the raw material, right?
Mm,
And then it was going to mean the two factories in Nigeria were going to have to shut down. It's
mm,
for Maggie, which is like our biggest SKU. It
mm.
went to a point that mentally I was stressed. You know, you're thinking, you're calculating. We've tried to find all other sorts of alternatives. Nothing was working. We had a consignment that was on the sea, but
Yeah.
we had a lot of delays and all that, all that. And then it got to a point. I just told my team members, I said, guys, right now we're not even going to rely on on the physical anymore. And then we all said, okay, we're now going to start praying. And then I told them that, guys, you know the kind of prayer that you pray that God, let the wind on the sea be so high that the vessel is going to arrive in Nigeria a day before it should arrive. So
That's how desperate the situation was.
so right now I'm just on a break and really I'm enjoying it as well.
Okay.
For my family as well, because at some point or the other, we've had to manage, with the family not together. My husband was in Abuja, I was in Lagos with the kids. So it's really a time for us as well to bond as a family and all that. So
Okay.
beyond the work, like I said, I work with teenagers, I work with children at the side. It's just all encompassing for me, really to be happy. That's
Yeah,
been it.
yeah, yeah. The balance. There's a way you get your balance there by working with the kids, which you something you
Yes.
enjoy doing. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's quite a nice, interesting story you told there about the
Yes.
desperation and then yeah, that's one thing I've seen really about supply chain management. It is the
Yeah.
pressure could be huge,
Mm-hmm.
to make things happen. I think this is the reason one of the reasons why I believe that the supply chain management professional or
Mm-hmm.
profession deserve that recognition in the
Sure.
industry is
Sure.
no matter what the
Mm.
folks on the board, whatever permutation that they have done, there is somebody who really needs to make this thing
Yeah.
happen, and that's the
Mm-hmm.
supply chain guys. But I think the conversation is kind of changing now after the
Yeah,
COVID
yes,
19.
yes, yes, yes. It
Or
is.
maybe
It is.
we'll see
It
how that
is.
works out. Eh? Okay. Yeah, but that's a
Yeah.
very, very interesting story there.
Thank you.
Yeah. So here is a question here. It's about the community that we have been building for some time now. We started Supply Jobs Canada in 2015. So here is this question about the Supply Jobs Canada
Yes.
network. I know you joined us recently, but we've actually been working together as a group 2015, starting with WhatsApp, which still on WhatsApp, anyways.
Yeah.
But we've been going through all the, when you have a new team, gone through a lot up
Yeah.
till now. We continually bring in new folks, and we also work on a lot of resources as well together. Even some projects. I know you recently. I think it was in January. We actually worked on something regarding
Yes.
the disruption.
Innovation.
So these are the type of things that we've been doing in the Supply Jobs Canada network. But I like to hear it from your own perspectives. What you think about the Supply Jobs Canada network, from your own experience. I think the question is, I would like to learn from your own experience. I haven't been in
Yeah.
the Supply Jobs Canada group or network.
Mm-hmm.
What are your own perspectives? How has it really even been of help, if it has been of help, um, to in your own integration in the Canadian industry?
Okay, so I first got to know about it. I think that was around December.
Mm,
Well, on another platform, another WhatsApp group, and then I saw you talking about supply chain. So I just reached out to you asking if you were also a supply chain management professional. And interestingly, you told me a platform already existed where we had colleagues networking and sharing. So far my experience in the group is, I think, is very, very good. It's very important. It really gives the networking platform. I think just today someone was asking if anybody worked in a particular organization, and
yeah.
you have people saying, please check my LinkedIn profile. If you find anybody that works there, I can always help. I can talk about it. So I think it's really a group where the relevant things in the industry are being shared. It's very insightful. We're not just about what has happened in the past. There's really a lot about what's going to happen in the future. What are we doing differently? We talk about the courses that people can do. Jobs are being posted, for those that are still seeking for one employment or the other. So I really see it as a family. That's really what we are growing into, where people come in, even if you're new, you've been here for a while, it's just a safe space where you can share, you can learn, and you can also you don't just have to take. It's really important for you to also bring something back on the table. It's for you as well to add value. So I think it's really a good platform. It's really a good networking tool where everyone in the supply chain industry can really add value, can learn, and can keep making changes, innovations. I remember in January we started the was it January towards March, into March we did Innovation Month, and so those are things that we keep talking about. Before the pandemic came, we're talking about what disruptions in supply chain, and then boom, the disruption came. So I think it's really a good platform, like you said. It's a great job you're doing, and with everybody. Yeah.
Yeah. Awesome. So I really like your point there about the fact that we're not only talking about things that have happened in the past, but we're always looking further into the
Okay.
future. How are the supply chain profession itself is kind of shaping out? And
Mm-hmm.
like it's always good to have each person's perspective. When we talk
Sure.
about this type of things. Yeah. So it's a mastermind. That's what I will just add to that. It's a mastermind. There's not one person who knows everything.
Sure.
Each person
Sure.
can always kind of share their own perspective, and then helps us to learn from one another. So that's
Sure.
the platform there. It's I'm always looking forward to share and also to learn, as being somebody who is very curious, I could say. So here is another question. I haven't talked about supply chain, how you broke into this career. If you were not working in supply chain management, what career would you have chosen?
Okay, like I said, I did accounting, so
Okay.
possibly I think I would have just still had to grow a career in accounting.
Accounting.
Though I kind of like engineering a lot. When I was young, I used to like to fix things. The fan is not working. You see me pick screwdriver and trying to figure out what's
Oh, really?
wrong. The
Okay.
video player is not working. I'm on screen and trying to figure out how. But somehow, I think in secondary school, people always say maths is hard, sciences are hard. So I never even gave it a try. So I,
No.
I, I was completely closed up. I wasn't even going to give it a thought. And then I usually laugh about it that somehow God still helped me find a way to still express it, because I'm in supply chain management. Like I said, I worked in the factory before.
Mm,
So that part of me is still being it's still being
yeah,
used. So if I wasn't doing supply chain for maybe at primary school level, if things had been different in secondary school, maybe engineering.
yeah,
Yeah,
I've been yeah. I mean, talking about supply chain management is a career where you just have to be innovative. You
sure,
know,
sure, sure.
So that's just the interesting part of it. So regardless of what background you had,
Mm-hmm.
you have that opportunity to be innovative, to add value, to solve problems. Basically,
Sure.
is that's what we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Okay. So here is a question that has to do with leadership. You're somebody who has been in leadership role as a manager, supply and demand and supply manager, as I heard from the bio. So here is a question regarding leadership. What is the most important leadership lesson you've
Mm.
learned in your career, and how has it proven invaluable to your team?
Okay, so first I would like to say leadership is very deliberate and intentional.
Mm,
Um, you need to want to be the leader that you want people to see you, how you want them to perceive you. So I remember like when I was in Dubai and I was moving back to Nigeria, I
mm,
remember one thing I said to myself was when I'm leaving the role I was going to take, that my yardstick of success would be ability to have developed somebody else from my team from within to take over that role. Of
mm,
course, Nestle is an international organization, so sometimes you have them bringing people from outside and all that. So, but I gave myself a target that my yardstick of success would be my team members. So I was very deliberate about it. I was intentional to ensure that my team was being developed. Of
Mm,
course, everyone's career at the end, they say, is in your hands, but
mm,
people can support, people can guide to be sure that you're actually achieving those things that you've set. So with my team members, that's the same approach I usually use with them. Whatever I know, I'm very open to, share the knowledge, empower them, because I think that's really very important. All through my career as well, I have never had any micromanagers, so it's really important for me as well to be able to empower my team members, to empower the people. And I remember, I think why I had that as well was I've seen times when managers lost opportunities because they did not have anybody to replace them.
mm.
So I had always said to myself, I'm indisposable. So it means I'm indispensable, as in I'm not indispensable. So if I leave, somebody else to take the role, but I need to be prepared that if opportunity opens up, they will not hold me back because I don't have somebody to take over. So for me, it's really very important that your team members, their happiness is your happiness. So you need to empathize with them. You need to, listen more to them, work with them, also recognize them. That's really very, very important as well. So I think those are some things that for me as
That's
well.
a lot of things, just some few minutes. So I remember you mentioned intentional, deliberate,
Yes. Yes.
listen, okay,
Yes.
empower,
Yes.
empathize.
Yes.
Yeah, I think that's pretty much it. Yeah,
Yeah.
definitely. I really agree with you in all of those things. And the fact that you know that you're indispensable. Is that how you said it? Yeah, you're not
This
indispensable.
I'm not indispensable.
Ah,
Yes. Yes.
so, which
Yes.
means that you're actually looking at you transitioning from that role,
Yeah.
such that somebody within your team that you are
Mm-hmm.
developing takes over that role from you, which is really, really great. I mean, I haven't heard that from leaders, any leader that I've known in a
Mm-hmm.
long time, but actually, that's my own philosophy as well when it comes to
Yeah.
leadership. I don't believe in competing with anybody. I'm always open to have my team actually contribute as a how do I call it now, as a team, like in a
Mm-hmm.
collaborative manner to
Yeah.
all had our own perspectives into anything that we're working on. So which is very great. That's very great leadership attribute right there. So here is another question here, which I think it talks about, the innovation thing we're talking about earlier. Mention two supply chain or procurement initiatives that you are proud to have managed or been involved with or in the course of your career.
Um,
And why these two initiatives?
okay, so I think one would be demand planning accuracy improvement. So I did that while I was in Dubai and when I came back to Nigeria. And it's really very interesting for you to see, things improve from how it was before. Now, not just improve in terms of numbers, but the benefits that actually come with that improvement is really what gives me the joy. So for instance, improving demand planning accuracy would mean I have products readily available, more on time. My freshness as well is being improved because I can plan better. I know this is the quantity I'm supposed to sell. I'm not just keeping the products in my shelf or in my warehouse for months before it goes out. So those were the benefits, really from doing this initiative. So the initiative as well was not just myself and my team. The good part was it was cross-functional initiative. So it meant I had to align with people from sales, people from marketing, other colleagues in supply chain, people as well from the factory. So, this project really was I would say a big one for the organization as a whole because it has an impact on every aspect. It had an impact on the finances, which
Yeah.
means that our budget and our forecasting as well was improved. We could plan better in terms of the bottom line, the marketing activities as well. You could plow it in. So really, when you're able to achieve, not even just achieve once, but you're consistently able to sustain good performance based on the initiatives and the improvements and the processes that you bring on board, that's really, really very, very, very good. And those are the things that really give me the joy.
Yeah, that's
That's one.
yeah.
So another one as well would be While I took on the last role in Nestle, which was the factory supply chain manager, we started a project on transportation backhauling. So you have transporters that normally go and deliver the finished products to distributors, particularly up north.
Mm,
Meanwhile, we buy grains from the north.
okay.
So what that project did was for us to, they say you kill two birds with one stone.
Mm,
So we had to bring the transporters, between the suppliers of the grains and those that were helping us to deliver to the customers. So what we did was we kind of like created a bridge between the two so that the truck that takes the finished product from the warehouse in Agbara to
mhm.
the north will be the same truck that will bring grains back to the factory for production. So in that way, of course, it made our processes a bit more efficient. We also had cost savings because it meant I was not employing two different drivers. It's still the same driver. We could also get better rates with the vendors, as well as the environmental benefits. So
Yeah,
it's the same car. Instead of having two cars drive back from the north, it's
mm,
still the same one truck that goes and comes back. So really, those are really good things that you
interesting.
see, and you see the benefits. Yeah.
Yeah, that's it's interesting because these are some of the things also that kind of gives me joy in in any project that I work in supply chain, especially the initiatives that aims to improve the process, because you will just see that it's not just about the cost savings. There are a lot of other things that happen in that process, and I think one of the challenges that we are still struggling with in supply chain is actually quantifying these savings that are not tied to the
Yes.
bottom line,
Mm-hmm.
because
Mm-hmm.
those are really the benefits that ties to the sustainability
Ability.
initiative.
Yes. Yes.
And
Yes.
really capturing that, I believe it's one thing that any supply chain performance measurement really needs to get hold of that aspects of supply chain, because
Mm-hmm.
I see a situation where a lot of the things that we are doing are just being reduced down to the bottom line,
Yes.
which
Mm-hmm.
really
Mm-hmm.
is just the tip of the iceberg when you
Oh,
think about
yeah.
what we are doing in supply chain. If you think about it, I want to believe that is one of the reasons why the board or the board leaders are not considering us as you know um, being a very integral part of what should be happening at the board, because
Mm,
seems everything is reduced down just to cost savings, but that's not really
yeah.
it. When we really look
Yes.
at what
All
we're
that
doing.
we about. Yes.
So
Yeah.
that's really great. I'm really I learned a lot from what you just mentioned now. So what would you like to be when you grow up?
Mm.
That you know what, that question is different from all the question I've been asking you all this while. If I was asked that question, you know what I would say?
Yeah. What would you say?
I grew up wanting to be an inventor,
Mm.
because all around in my environment, when I do stuff,
Yeah.
these are the things that I'm kind of leaning towards in all the kind of, like when you're playing and when you're a kid,
Yeah.
kind of have that flashback. You think, okay, so was I really doing all those things? Because I wanted to become an inventor really is what, the kind of inspiration I had when I was a kid. But you know what, life happens,
Sure.
and just go in different directions. But for you, what would you consider to be that thing that, like you wanted to be one?
When I grow up. Mm. Okay, well, so I'll just say, I always think to myself, I saw an article, I think that was when I was maybe 5 years in the corporate world, and the person was saying, imagine your 80th birthday, right? And then the people that you would like to be there at your celebration, and then what are the things you would like them to say about you,
Mm,
so I think that kind of like helped me to go forward, and then try and have like a big picture of what do I think I want to be. So when I grow up, I'm still growing, I'm still young, but when I look back in like another 40 years from now,
mhm,
I would like to have seen myself really being a strong change agent, really in terms of policies, in terms of having an impact in the economy, you
mm,
know. that's really something I would like myself, where I would like to see myself. Yeah, I'm in supply chain management now. I'm still planning to grow my career in supply chain management. Probably have a consulting outfit in later years,
Right, right.
but really seeing those transformations, that's really, really what I would really like to see myself in. Like I said, I like to work with children and work with youth, so I might still have like an empowerment or an NGO at the side, most likely. So that's also something that I would still love to have or to
Great,
do
great.
in the
Those
future.
are those are really great. I mean,
Yes,
like you talked about the balancing, starting out in the
yes,
conversation. So
yes.
I think that you still kind of consistent with what you said earlier. But at least we know now that you like to have an NGO, and
Yes.
maybe you like to go into consulting further down in your career. Yeah, so
Sure.
that's really pretty interesting. What are the three most important insights that you have gained having transitioned from being a new immigrant in Canada and then breaking into your career here in Canada? What are those three things that you think will be very, very valuable insights for new job seekers in Canada?
Um, okay, first, I think I would like to, how do I express it now? So for myself, for instance, there's a notion of when you come to Canada, you always have to start from the bottom of the pyramid.
Yep.
So if I use my experience, I had to come down the ladder a bit, but not exactly starting from the rock bottom of the pyramid.
Mm,
But I think what is important is people need to keep researching as much as possible, because I realized that in Canada, certifications are a big deal. So people really need to see what certifications they can already start
mm,
before they come, because that kind of helps. So like I said, I have APIX, CSCP. So
mm,
that has kind of like helped me as well with, of course, my work experience together. But it's really very important to try and see what certifications you can already start to do
yeah.
before you come in. It's also important for you to try and start building your network.
Okay.
Referrals are very key here in Canada. So even when you apply for jobs, they keep asking, did anybody refer you from the organization and all that? So it's really, really very important for you to build a network. It's really very important, because I remember I mentioned earlier that I took a non-paid job. I took it because I knew at the end of the day, I would be able to get a referral at least.
Mm,
My boss would give a reference. So when I got the current job, they asked for references. And interestingly, they did not contact the references from Nigeria. It was only the one from
yeah.
Canada that they contacted. So, you need to be able to build that network so that people can guarantee, at least they can stand for you professionally as well. So I would say those are the three key things people should watch out for.
Okay, so if I can recollect, you mentioned networking, you mentioned referral.
Yes,
I don't.
yes.
I think I was still one on
Certifications.
certification. Great, great. Yeah,
Yes,
so those are
yes,
the three
yes.
key things. Um, awesome, awesome. I think we've come to the end of the question and answers. But if you do have anything that you want to add to just what you said now, because I know some people are about making that transition from wherever they are in their home country to Canada. What
Yeah,
would you say, aside from these three key things you talked about, which I believe that they will have to do when they land here in Canada?
sure.
What are those
Hmm.
things that they need to do before
They come.
they come to Canada? Maybe you pick up three
Um,
things that they need to do.
okay, things you need to do before coming. Hmm. Okay, yes, so already I talked about if you can start certifications before you come, it
Okay.
helps. Um, I think first thing is to have the right mindset as well and set the right expectations.
Okay.
If you're coming in, they always tell us to have proof of funds. There's a reason for that proof of funds. Please make sure you have minimum your proof of funds at least, so that when you come in, the pressure is not so bad. The pressure will be there,
Mm,
it will be there. But at least if you have something, it will still help you, when you eventually arrive. So please make sure you save enough as much as you can, because when you come to Canada, You might not get your job the first month. I didn't get the job, my first job until 3 months, my paid job until 3 months after I've arrived.
Oh.
So it's important for you to have enough savings, have the right mindset.
Mm.
So give yourself the right expectations. Say, okay, maybe in the first 3 months, or so another thing as well is you could say in the first 1, 2 months, I would take just a job. But for my preferred job, my preferred role, it might take me a longer time for me to get it, you know. So
So can you
uh,
advise how long the expectations you should be in terms of getting a job in their own career? When should they give up?
well, I think 3 months is realistic. At least think, imagine worst case or something, you might have to wait for as long as 3 months for you to get something. I think three
Just
months is
any job or a job in their profession?
a job in your profession could take a longer time. That's the truth. You know, sometimes people just tell you the good things that they want you to know, but in reality, it could take you a longer time for that. But of course, like we said, there are other things you might take and you know you can start doing. Of course, you
Okay.
shouldn't just be idle. There are other options of things you might have to start doing, but for your preferred role, for your preferred industry, you might not get it immediately you come in.
Okay, sounds good. Great, great, great. I really want to thank you for this
Thank you.
opportunity
Yes.
to have this chat. I know this is like a bonding chat for me as
Sure,
well because we
sure.
haven't really met face to face,
No, no.
So it's really great to have this discussion, and
Yes.
I really like all the valuable insights you are able to provide both for people who are already here
Hmm.
practicing and those, especially the females as well. You know,
Yeah,
they need to get
yeah.
that perspectives of things, and then all those who are still back home planning to immigrate to Canada. So thanks so much for having
Thank you. Thank you for the
you to
opportunity as
chat with us.
well.
You know,
Yeah.
and have a great one with family, and hope you
You.
have some plans for July 1st, Canada Day. But I don't know going
No.
to the parks will be, but at least you can have a celebration at your home or whatever formula.
Sure, sure. We'll do something.
Okay then, thanks so much.